Hello there, I'm Lloyd Evans. Welcome to the attic. It's time for another voicemail. Today's voicemail is from Stuart. Let's listen to what Stuart has to say.
Hi, Lloyd. My name is Stuart Mejia. I'm in Los Angeles, California. Just a little bit about me. I used to be a Jehovah's Witness, but back in 2018, my first wife died because of not receiving a blood transfusion. Um, I left, I think, a year after that, the organization. So many things opened up. And, there's multiple factors that made me take that decision. And as I live through life, I see that my decision was not in vain. I feel good about my decision. The reason for this voicemail, and you can use it on your channel, please do. I want to support things like this because I don't like to see other people suffer the things that I've gone through. So that was one of the biggest things, see my first wife die because, that happened. And then people were telling me, like elders were telling me right after, a couple of days later from when that happened, hey, you should have put blood. You should have done it. She would have just gotten this fellowship and you'll be back in a year, things like that. And then the fact that people get manipulated with man made up rules like, hey, you can't go to parties because, he was an ex J Dub or he's not a J Dub. Um, Things like that. I can't stand the fact of the man-made rules and how they manipulate people. Right now, I decided to send you this audio because I'm getting married next month, and I'm not a JW anymore. I'm not a Jehovah's Witness anymore, and my fiance was never a Jehovah's Witness. And today we found out that my parents are not going to the wedding because they are Jehovah's Witnesses. They are, my dad's an elder, my mom's a pioneer. They go to the Spanish congregation. And the reason that they are not going is because I used to be a Jehovah's Witness and my fiance was never a Jehovah's Witness. I don't see how that comes into effect. How does that affect anything? My sister, that's a Jehovah's Witness, and her husband are going, and my uncle and his wife are going, and they're all Jehovah's Witnesses. And I've seen my parents go to weddings that both the bride and the groom are not Jehovah's Witnesses. It makes me feel bad, the situation, and then my fiance is devastated because we had an impression, of love and keeping the family together and close. But with this said now, we're going to have to measure my parents the same way that they measure us. I don't see the cause or why this has to be this way. And yes, I may be, heated right now, but I really want to express this and do whatever it takes to, help people out there realize how they're being manipulated to things that are not reasonable. Usually my parents come to the house, we'll have liquor, we'll have food, we'll have music, we'll dance, we'll have a great time. So I don't see why you can't be at my wedding to spend a moment, one in a lifetime moment, on celebration for me as your son. They're picking faith or their man-made rules versus their son is the way that I see it. So please, Lloyd, share this. I know a lot of people probably have gone through similar situations. I watch your channel. I'm always looking at your videos, your recent videos, and I appreciate very much the work that you do. Um, I I'm just in shock right now with the decision that my parents made. Um, it's just ridiculous. I know I will get over it, um, but I didn't think that a religion or an organization, better said, not a religion, can manipulate somebody so much that they're willing to put their children to the side for that organization or for that cult. Well, thank you, Lloyd.
Well, thank you, Stuart, for leaving that message. And the most important thing that I need to say is to offer my condolences for your late wife and the tragic way that she met her end. And I can only imagine how traumatic it must have been for you to lose your wife under those circumstances because of this rule that was made back in the 1940s. And then to go through the process of elders coming up to you and saying, you do realize you should have accepted blood and we would have just disfellowshipped you for a while. Actually, it's disassociated technically, but we would have, we would have had to discipline her for accepting blood, but at least she'd still be alive and she could come back. To have elders saying that to you. In other words, saying, oh, well, it's just a technicality. And yet look at how the organization deals with this issue. Whenever they touch on it, they really do view it as a test of loyalty. And it's not something that you can negotiate on or say, oh, well, I'll dip in and out of the religion just to stay alive. That's not how they put things forward in the publications, is it? So really messed up for you to go through that whole situation, and you have my deepest condolences. Really, there's no question here that you're asking me, and that's completely fine, by the way. You made it clear in your message that this is about highlighting how deeply abusive and controlling this group is, and I think you've done that wonderfully. So I don't have anything at all really to add to what you're saying in terms of advice. You're now being faced with, quite frankly, hypocrisy on the part of your parents, because they're quite happy to hang around with you and socialize with you behind closed doors in private. But if it's a public thing, then suddenly they have different standards. And I think that's just openly hypocritical. I would be saying to them, well, thank you for showing me that you have two sets of standards, one for behind closed doors and one for in front of other people. And thank you for showing me how expendable I am in terms of how my importance to you as your son. So I fully understand why this is upsetting for you and for your soon-to-be wife. In fact, it could be, because this message was left 3 weeks ago, it could be that you're already married by now, in which case, congratulations. But really, you choose your own family, or you need to choose your own family, especially in situations like this. And our family are the people who care for us. Our family are the people who show up for us. And at least you've got some who are willing to show up for you. You mentioned other family members who will be there. The way your parents are behaving is disgraceful and playground-like, and they should be ashamed, and I am sure they will only regret their decision. I think if you are watching this as someone who sympathizes with the parents, perhaps you're shunning your children and you think, oh, well, they're doing the right thing. All I would say, in addition to what Stuart's been saying, is think about the legacy you're leaving behind for your future generations. Let's just assume for a moment that your religion is wrong and that you've been lied to, and there is no panda paradise, and there is no magical resurrection where everyone that you love, who you've lost, just emerges from the trees and you embrace. on this in this Japanese garden on this beautiful bridge spanning a river or whatever. Let's just assume for a moment that you're wrong. What you're doing by behaving the way that you're behaving with shunning is alienating people in the here and now who care about you, so that you are in danger of leaving behind a legacy of everybody who actually matters not caring about you, or holding something against you, or knowing that you basically let them down. Is that really the legacy that you want to leave behind? If Stuart's parents ever happen to watch this, that would be what I have to say to you. Is this really the legacy that you want to leave behind? A legacy of, we won't even show up to our own son's wedding, even though we're quite happy to socialize with him when it's behind closed doors. That's the hypocrisy that we're dealing with. And ultimately, it's the organization that's doing this, that's controlling your parents, Stuart. And as difficult as it can be sometimes, and as frustrating as it can be sometimes, try to allow them a little bit of benefit of the doubt, or as much as you possibly can, and understand that they are not in control of their own actions. In their minds, it's not hypocrisy. It makes total sense. They've managed to reason themselves into it. But ultimately, it's the organization that's playing them and spoiling this, not just for you and for your ex, but for them as well. So thank you so much for leaving this message. It really is helpful for my viewers to see how messed up this organization is. If you would like to leave a voicemail, the thing to do is go to speakpipe.com/Cedars, remembering to indicate clearly if you don't want me to broadcast your message on this channel. But that's all I have time for. Thank you so much for watching.